Hi, and welcome back to my series of podcasts on high-performance collaboration and teamwork. I am Carlos Valdes-Dapena, and today I want to talk about how we moved away from team stages into something else. Years ago, when I was at Mars, I was part of an internal consulting group, and my boss invited in a consultant from the outside who was trying to sell us a new instrument. I believe it was an instrument meant to measure culture. I don't remember precisely, but we agreed we would do this instrument as an experiment, invite the consultant in and see what we learned. Maybe it was something we could use. And we were seated in our offices in Mount Olive, New Jersey one afternoon. The consultant had flown in from his home in Hawaii, which I thought was pretty cool. And he was sitting with us as we debriefed the instrument. And we were debating back and forth, talking about this, that, and the other thing. There were about 8 of us in the room. And this stately gentleman at one point asked if he could say something. And my boss, Jim, said, well, sure, yeah, you're the expert on this. And he was leaning back in his chair. He was a more mature guy. He had retired and actually started his own consultancy based on this instrument he developed. Leaning back and said, you know, I've made one observation after speaking with many of you, after seeing this survey and watching you interact in the room today. I would say that Mars has to be the least reflective culture I've ever seen. And we all cracked up because we all knew Mars is this action-oriented, results-driven place where we just get stuff done, and we don't often stop. At least we didn't then. I'm no longer a Mars associate. We don't stop and think about it. We do stuff. That has its advantages. Mars was and still is an extremely successful company and a wonderful place to work. But it's true. Not very reflective, very action-oriented. So why does this matter? As I was considering how to design this teamwork module for the management development program that I was engaged with at Mars, I thought most of these models are kind of intellectual. They're kind of academic. The 4 stages of team development, for example, that I've talked about in several of these podcasts, forming, storming, norming, performing, it's a psychological model. Martians have relatively little patience for that kind of stuff. They'll listen to it for a while. Yeah, I mean, I was using it myself and people paid attention. But I realized if we were going to succeed with something that would have legs at Mars, that would make a difference and work for a while, it would have to be more action-oriented. Mars was an action-oriented culture. We needed a team framework and an approach that would speak to that action orientation that Martians have, that lack of reflectiveness. Now look, you're not going to get work on your team done unless you pause, think about it, reflect a little bit, and then do things differently. But the basic approach had to be more focused on what we're going to do, not who we are. So, I'd been a yoga teacher for years by the time I undertook this program design for this team development module. And it occurred to me that yoga is about practice. We call it a yoga practice. It's a doing. So we chose to move in that direction. I borrowed that idea of practices, and in the next podcast, I'll talk more about how that looks when we apply this idea of practices to team development instead of stages. Thanks. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, or you can contact me through my website, lessonsfrommars.net. That's lessonsfrommars.net.